Rhino Ken in seminary said, actually, water is not wet. It makes things wet. Well, it's because of the transitive property of the wetness. See, it transfers its wetness to whatever it is wetting. And when it comes to wetness, when it comes to moisture, whether or not it gets absorbed, I call that rule depends. Here in the studio, nobody's going to get that one, by the way. Rhino, make a note. I don't need to do any more adult pull-up jokes. We've got in studio with us now from SuperTalk Mississippi News, sitting here patiently waiting for me to shut up. Ben Milam, how you doing this morning, man?
I'm doing just fine, Gerard. Dave, how are you doing?
I'm going home. I'm done. Good night, everybody.
Well, I walked in on a pretty heady conversation there, and so it tripped me up a little bit. Good to see you, Dave.
So you went in the wrong room first. That's what I'm hearing.
That's
if
right.
You walked in on a heady conversation.
That's right, yeah.
Speaking of that, I made the comment right at the beginning of the show that I told a buddy of mine that lives in New York. We were talking day before yesterday, actually. I said, what I want for my birthday, what I want for Christmas is precedented times. Can we please stop having breaking news? I blame you at this point, really.
Well, it's that's what we do every day, and somebody's got to do it. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, and we've got some good things to talk about too, Dave. Plenty of good things to talk about.
We do have some good things to talk about, but the old journalism expression: if it bleeds, it leads. We always have the bad news first. That's just kind of the way it works. Having said that, the good news just keeps pouring in. And we're in danger of not having enough bad news to talk about. That's great.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
That's the way it should be every time. And let's talk about some of the big stories. Past Christian, you got a 9-year-old that could whoop my behind in golf.
Oh, yes.
And everybody else's, it looks like.
That's right. Past Christian, 9-year-old golfer Charlie McGee. Myself and Charlie McGee have combined to win about 70 tournament championships, all of those to Charlie McGee. And this past week, Charlie added to that trophy case again. It is jam-packed. He tied for 8th place in the 2024 9A World Championship at Pinehurst, the course adjacent to where the U.S. Open is played. And he's going to keep rolling. He qualified for another national world tournament, and that's the chip, putt, and or drive, chip, and putt. This is a national championship, so he finished top 10 in the world in that tournament at Pinehurst. And we did a story on this. This is the one where you talk about there is a lot of unfortunate news out there. This is one that's just a lot of fun to write. One of the most decorated young golfers in Mississippi history, and again, just continues to add to it. He is legitimately one of the best young golfers in the world. And it was funny, he, in this article, Charlie and his dad grew up playing down on the coast in Pass Christian, and his dad says that at about 6-7 years old is when Charlie started being able to beat his dad. And I think a lot of people might sour on the game of golf if that started happening, but I think his dad has enjoyed the ride, and his instructor has talked about the abundance, the incredible talent that Charlie has, that Charlie's doing things when they're training together in instruction sessions that he's never seen before, period. Not just for a 9-year-old, period. Golfers never do, and this is a guy, a pro at the club, at the golf club, just has never seen before. And so this, I would imagine, not the last time we're going to hear from Charlie McGee, but this is a pretty cool story.
It is a very cool story. He is literally world class at playing golf. He's 9 years old. Speaking to all the other dads out there, you and I both know in about 4 years, Charlie's going to decide he'd rather play soccer. That's the way it always works.
Sure.
Yeah,
well, he's probably going to have a little bit of external pressure to keep playing golf. And just for the people, just for reference, I think a lot of people think 9-year-old golfer, they're playing maybe a par 3 course. Oh, they're playing 9 holes. No, they're playing at Pinehurst, again, championship level course, not the U.S. Open course, the course adjacent to it, across a 3-day tournament, 18 holes every day, shot 5 under for the tournament. I don't think I've ever broken 100.
Nice.
Dave. I've never even gotten in the same universe as that, and this kid is doing it just about every weekend.
Have you ever, and this is my personal mark that I've yet to ever set myself, it's been a while since I've been to a golf course, have you ever played a complete round and not lost any balls?
No.
Okay.
That is also my goal. That's the first benchmark I'm trying to get to in my golf career. And I've not even gotten to the point where I keep score for a full 18 holes. Usually give up around 6 or 7 and then just kind of play for fun after that.
You know, if you'd like to train yourself to get into it better, they don't have erasers on the pencils of the putt-putt course for a reason, so they can train you into some good habits there and then you can translate it over to the main course.
There you go.
Just a thought there. Good for Charlie. We certainly hope that he continues on and continues having success and remembers who we are when he's big and famous.
Yes, indeed.
Playing soccer. Now, some other stuff. Ole Miss has been in the news, and I think one of them is the AP poll. They're top 10 right now.
Number 6, that's right.
And they have a lot of representation on the Senior Bowl list, don't they?
That's right. The Reese's Senior Bowl list, Caleb Sailors and JT Mitchell have done a great job covering the preseason accolades for Ole Miss that continue to stack. I mean, I think if anybody has just a little bit of a pulse on college football ahead of this 2024 season, you know the expectations are pretty sky high for Ole Miss, maybe as high as they have ever been for this Ole Miss program. But, you look at a lot of these preseason polls and just the expectations, the talking heads that throw around a lot of big predictions and things like that. One of the best indicators is veteran talent, experience on your roster that have done it before, especially at the high level of college football that Ole Miss hopes to play in this year. 21 guys have been named to this watch list, and this is the premier bowl game, right? The kind of postseason all-star game, if you will, after the college football season. 21 guys, and we're not going to read them all because we'll run out of time. But there is just a bevy of talent and experienced talent for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, and I think that is going to lend itself to a pretty good season.
Yeah, you would think so because. I'm sorry, if you take two teams and one of them has 21 seniors,
right?
Another one has more talented kids, but they've got 2 seniors. I'm still betting on the senior-heavy team just because experience wins out a lot of times.
It does, and a lot of these guys, too, have been at Ole Miss. They've been with Lane Kiffin in this system. That's rare in today's college football. Ole Miss just one of just 3 teams to crack 20-plus players on this watch list, and they are the top team on this watch list. It's going to be fun to watch for the Rebels this year.
Louis from the 662, by the way, you'll like this, Ben, says his criteria for a good day of golf. Number 1, I don't hurt anybody. That's usually a good first.
That's a great one.
The non-contact sport should remain non-contact. Number 2, I finish with as many balls as I started with, just not necessarily mine.
I usually come out with more balls than I started with. I'm a scavenger.
Well, waiter's going to wait. And number 3, there's a meal afterwards. You hit those 3?
Yeah.
Good round of golf.
Yeah, Louis got the right idea.
I would agree with that. Big Milam, can you hang around for a minute?
Absolutely.
Well, it's either this or go back to work. Come on. We'll continue live in the Element Well studios on Middays next. Now, that should have been the musical theme for the Democratic National Convention this week. If the devil danced in empty pockets, there you go. It's the platform, isn't it? Has been so far in the Biden administration, definitely. Well, if the devil is in the details, then the devil's in the person in the studio with me, Ben Milam, because he's got all the details on everything. That may be the worst
Is that a compliment?
We're going to count it as a compliment.
I'll take it as such.
Yeah, it was intended as a compliment.
Okay, well, thank you, Dave. Thank you.
We'll go that way. I still wouldn't tell my preacher that anybody said that about me, though. We were talking off the air just very briefly there. We have, and I joked right at the beginning about, nonstop breaking news. It's been a little quiet recently, in all seriousness.
Yeah, just a tad. It feels a little like, and we talked last time I was on with you. This is my first go around, and as the calendar goes on, how the news cycle changes, and typically the summer is a little quieter, a little slower. Hasn't really been the case this year for a lot of different reasons from a lot of different directions. But it feels like this week, in terms of really big breaking news, it has slowed down a little bit. Maybe probably a little bit of the quiet before the storm, you would feel like. And, we mentioned Ole Miss football, Mississippi college football starts next week. Jackson State and Alcorn State will be the first Mississippi teams to kick it off Thursday of next week. And then you obviously get, the election season as we get closer to November starts to intensify a little bit or a lot. And, we've certainly covered the DNC and as we covered the RNC as well. But in terms of, really big stuff, there's not been just a ton. And I think, that's let us take a little bit of a deep breath, not a huge deep breath, but maybe one that we haven't been able to take in a lot of different spots this summer. And I think, we get to November, middle of November, December-ish, January, we're probably going to be thankful for a little bit of a slight respite at this point in the summer.
No, I think you're exactly right. And traditionally, yes, that it was a running joke because for years and years and years, the week between Christmas and New Year's, I was here doing this show because nobody else wanted to do this show in the week between Christmas and New Year's. Right. I was here. Forget breaking news. We couldn't find any guests. Every year, everybody's like, "No, sure. I'm out. I got a nap scheduled. I can't make it." So yeah, we do have that other calm coming down the road. I think we got to get past the election first, though, buddy. It's about to start ramping up. Yeah,
it's coming.
Yeah, and it's not just the national elections that gets all the attention. That sucks all the oxygen out of the room. But we have other elections too. And I heard Senator John Horn on the air this week, some talk about him possibly, and he's not saying no, about him running for mayor of Jackson.
It was he was on this show, and it was a pretty he said heavy consideration, and you could tell. He said we've not pulled the final trigger yet, but it's going to come soon. And so it was a pretty it was a nod. I think just kind of reading between the lines, it seems like he's leaning towards a run for Jackson mayor, and this is obviously within the storm of all of the corruption allegations and former Councilwoman Angelique Lee stepping down last week and pleading guilty to a bribery charge. And all of the different rumors that are swirling around that, right? I think there is probably going to be, guys like Senator John Horn who have run for mayor before, men and women who are probably, maybe they were on the other side of that fence and they see and sense this dissatisfaction, or they feel that themselves with all of this stuff going on in the city of Jackson. That's part of what John Horn talked about, right? Senator Horn talked about the disappointment, right, and almost the embarrassment of all of these headlines going around, and with all of this stuff that has followed the federal investigation, a corruption investigation of Jackson city officials. And so because of that, I think people are going to see, okay, there is a real need here. This is probably what they're going to say. I would imagine this is part of what John Horn was saying. And Kenneth Stokes, Councilman Stokes, was talking similarly. There might be a need for some change. And as we're aware right now, current mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba is going to run for a third term. And Kenneth Stokes, pointed out, we wrote a story on this. He was with Mary Whedon here on a show, pointed out that one of those rumors is that the mayor is entangled in this federal investigation. And so I would imagine the focus for the mayor right now is to get through that and to dispel those rumors. If he is not a part of that, if he is, he's going to have to work through some of that. But it's going to be, this election is not until June 2025 for the mayoral seat, and all the council seats are up for election too. But you talk about an intense election cycle. We'll get past the national election and some statewide elections here in Mississippi, and then you'll have the inauguration in January and everything that follows that. We'll roll right into those municipal elections, and there are going to be plenty of storylines hovering around that as well. And one of those being that people that have run and have had a lot of support in the city of Jackson, like Senator John Horn, are possibly going to give another run at it. Well,
and you mentioned something there about how we're going to get done with the national elections and immediately roll into the municipal elections. I've said this before. I've talked about it before. I feel like everyone is starting to suffer from election fatigue because we never have a moment where there aren't somebody's yard signs out somewhere.
Sure.
We are in continuous campaign mode 24/7, 365. You just never get a break from it. But then you add in what's going on in Jackson and all of the, I think chaos is an appropriate term at this point.
I do too.
When you have federal investigations, you've got one person that's pleaded guilty already, so there's no longer a case of, is there any fire under the smoke? No, there's definitely some flames there.
Yes.
I would agree with Councilman Stokes, who has been saying it for a while. This is an embarrassment. This is humiliating when everybody from around the state or around the country looks at us and we got this going on. Come on. I don't know if we are better than this, but we need to try to be, is my opinion.
Well, and that is going to be the motivation behind a lot of people. And this is already a packed field. There, we have covered a lot of the candidates running, and I believe this would be 5 who have at least talked about intentions of running, maybe 6. You'll have to double check me on that. But that, again, we're a long way out from this election. A little under a year away from this municipal election. And you're going to see some other people. You could have 7 or 8 people running for mayor of Jackson, and you obviously have the primaries before that. And it is going to be a storm of storylines, if you will. But hopefully for Jackson, they'll be better for it. And that's part of what Councilman Stokes was talking about. When you have issues like this, and again, there is something to it, right? Because there has already been one person pleading guilty to federal charges in this. You have to address it. And a lot of what this election will be, I think, is addressing those issues that very much need to be addressed and perhaps have needed to be addressed for a long time.
Yeah, I think so. And unfortunately, if we wind up with 7 or 8 people running for mayor, the only true winner is going to be whoever has the biggest sale on Tylenol. I really think that's the only ones that are guaranteed to come out on top here, because it's going to be a mess, and we all know it.
Well, and I think in today's political culture, if you will, you mentioned chaos just for everything that's gone around this deal with the city of Jackson. I think chaotic is a pretty good word to describe just the political sphere right now, and fatigue too. I think people are going to continue to have that. It'll be interesting to see how that affects how people run their campaigns in this local election coming up next year, if that changes at all, if that evolves even in this upcoming election in November, because people in a lot of ways are tired of how things are going, the direction it's going, the rhetoric that is being used in every direction, right? And so it'll be really interesting to see how that unfolds, particularly in Jackson.
I think you're exactly right. Ben Milam, SuperTalk Mississippi News. Always enjoy having you in here.
Always a pleasure, Dave.
When I come back, you come back.
Absolutely.
And then
I like how that works.
Yeah. If you come back when I haven't come back yet, well, it's just awkward then.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Come on. We'll miss each other, and you know it.
That's right.
We will return. That got weird in a hurry, didn't it? We'll return here in the Element Well Studios live on middays right after this.